Hey! Welcome to our video about Kanchanaburi. When we found out that we couldn't go to Sri Lanka because of coronavirus, we thought, let's make the most of it, of what we have. So we're already in Thailand. So we did a little bit of research and found out like other places that we could visit nearby, just so that we weren't spending like the entire time that my mum was with us just in one place. As fun as Bangkok was, you don't want to really spend like just 2 weeks there. And we found Kanchanaburi, and it was quite cool as well because we got the train there and it only took about 2.5 to 3 hours on the train, so it's quite close. And the train that we actually got on was really cool. We sat in like this really massive, like kind of spacious carriage. The windows are fully open, you could sort of look out the door, so you could really see like, the countryside and the little towns as we drove through. And yeah, it was just a really nice, relaxing journey. So it wasn't quite the train journey that we were looking forward to doing in Sri Lanka from Kandy to Ella, but you know, it was a little taste of it for now anyway. Some of the things that we wanted to do whilst we were in Kanchanaburi were like quite far out of the actual main town, so we decided to hire scooters for the day. Now this is something that me and Jim have done quite a lot whilst travelling, but my mum had never driven a scooter, and I was really proud of her for actually saying that she was going to give it a go, because she can drive, but it's kind of scary when you've never ridden a scooter before and you're just suddenly like thrown on one and expected to drive like hours down the road. So yeah, so she gave it a go. A little bit wobbly at first, I was a bit nervous, not gonna lie, but I think within like 2 or 3 minutes, once she built up a bit of confidence, she absolutely smashed it. I was so proud of her. So one of the places that we visited when we rented the scooters was the Death Railway. There's a lot of history around this in Kanchanaburi, so we wanted to just go and learn a bit more about it, see it for ourselves, and we drove for about an hour and a half, I think, to get there, and it was a really nice drive as well. Especially for my mum, like I said, she'd never been on a scooter before, so lots of straight roads, which was quite helpful. And yeah, we arrived there just sort of check it out and have a look around. When we got to the Death Railway, there was absolutely nobody else there. It was super quiet, but it was nice. We had a walk around the museum that was there and just sort of took in all the information that we could and learned as much as we could about it as well. And then I saw a little sign that said like rafting this way, so we followed it and ended up sort of going through a bit of a jungle trail. Again, because there was no one else there, we weren't really sure what we were walking towards, but it was quite a nice little walk through the jungle. And sort of off in the distance we saw that there was like a hotel or something, and by this point it was such a hot day, we were getting a bit thirsty and we thought, right, let's head towards where civilization looks like it is and just sort of grab a drink and refreshments and stuff. And it ended up being such a great idea because it was this beautiful resort. Again, hardly any people there, and they were so lovely. We bought a couple of drinks from them, and then the resort said that we could just go and use the pool and their facilities for free. And Jim was very excited because he was desperate to get in a pool, so he sort of jumped straight in. And me and my mum didn't have any swimming costumes with us because obviously we weren't expecting to go to this pool, but we sort of paddled in the water, and there was a regular swimming pool and then also like a hot spring swimming pool, which sounds crazy when it's already a hot day. Why do you want to go in a hot pool? But it was actually really refreshing, and it was just, you know, really beautiful scenery, just such a lovely place, lovely resort. We felt really lucky to be there. Whilst Jim was having a bit of a swim, me and my mum realised that they had P.O.Ws just right next to the pool, and there was this massive lake. So we climbed in one and had a little cycle around the lake. It was just really fun. It was a gorgeous day, so it was quite fun to just sort of try and manoeuvre this like massive P.O.W. And later on, Jim joined us on a kayak once he'd done swimming, and it was Mother's Day as well, so it was really nice. Felt like quite a luxury, I think, to be able to use all the facilities of this hotel even though we weren't staying there, so it was a nice treat for Mother's Day. As we were leaving the museum and the resort, we were just sort of driving up a hill, and Jim spotted that my mum had a flat tyre, and this led to about, I think, 2.5 hours of us trying to fix this flat tyre. And at first we were like, oh cool, no worries, the resort said there was a mechanic down the road, but just one thing after another just wasn't working in our favour. It turned out that that mechanic was closed. The little town that we were in had a power cut, so loads of places, because we needed gas as well, they couldn't give us gas because of the power cut. So we visited
Hi.
like 3 or 4 places that were supposed to be able to help us but couldn't. And along the way, it was actually really sweet because so many people, even though their English wasn't like incredible, were so helpful to us, kept pointing us in the right direction, trying their best to help us. And in one case, one woman actually got in her car and drove to where we could get help, and we just sort of followed her like behind on the bikes. So eventually we got a new tyre, and it only actually cost about £14 to get a new tyre, which was a bit of a relief because obviously we had to pay for it. But yeah, so we eventually got that fixed and got back on the road and headed back to Kanchanaburi. The next day, it was our last morning in Kanchanaburi, or our only morning in Kanchanaburi, and we decided to head to the bridge over the River Kwai. It was one of those things that was sort of recommended to do in Kanchanaburi, and it was only a walk, I think about 10-15 minutes away from where we were staying, so we went to check it out. The bridge itself was pretty cool. I don't really like bridges per se. They're okay, they do a job. Well done, bridge. But what was quite cool is that you can walk over it. So when you're walking on it, if a train comes, they'll normally sort of make a beeping noise and so you know that it's coming. And there's loads of like little areas that you can stand, so you can stand out of the way and it's safe for the train to go past. So we just sort of had a walk around. It was just such a beautiful area. The weather was perfect, it was over the water, it just looked really nice, like the little town and stuff. So it was a really nice sort of place to walk around and check out. We walked to the other side of the river because it said there was a prisoner of war camp, and we thought it might be another museum, you know, a chance for us to learn a bit more about like the history of this town. But we got there and it was basically a food market. It was really strange, but again, because of coronavirus, not many tourists, there was just absolutely no one there. So it was just a really strange setup. There were just tanks and planes everywhere, just sort of dotted around. You could like climb in them and have a look and stuff, but none of it was done, or at least what we could see, for like education. It was all just so you could eat and drink there. If it was full of people and had a nice atmosphere, it would be quite a nice place, but it was a bit strange whilst we visited. As we were leaving that market, we actually saw that the train was coming. So Jim sort of legged it, me and my mum slowly followed, so that we could stand next to the track and watch the train go by. It's one of those things, it's just kind of, it's different to what we're used to in England, you know. The trains in Thailand are really cool as well, so it's nice to have a look up close and sort of see how it all worked. And then after we watched the train go past, and a few people almost get hit by the train because they were desperate to get a selfie in front of it, we walked back to where we started on the other side of the river, or the first side of the river, and we checked out a war museum. The museum was an interesting place. I think it was like a war and an art museum, and I'm sure at some point it said it was like a jewellery museum. It was one of those buildings that was just, it was a really, really cool building. It was a bit wacky. It had loads of like kind of different paintings and bits of art and history and stuff. So we didn't necessarily learn a lot whilst going there because there wasn't really much information given. Maybe there's a guidebook that we were supposed to buy or something that did that, but it was just quite nice to have a look around and just sort of check out the building and sort of the insides and have a look around. And then that was it. That was our time in Kanchanaburi. It was short, but it was super sweet. We had a really lovely time, and I'm really glad that we visited because it was just a really nice way to end our time in Thailand and also our time with my mum visiting us as well. So that's it. That's our time in Thailand. Bye. Hey, you're not in this one.